Hello and welcome to Stable Hands Pet Design Studio, where we will be bringing you animal-themed crafts and DIYs. Please join us on this new journey by hitting the red subscribe below. You can also find our social media and other helpful information in the description box below. Today we are bringing you coastal decor plates. Here's the plate that I purchased from the Dollar Tree. It's just a square plate. You can get any plate you would like to use. A fashion scarf, also from the Dollar Tree. This one happens to have crabs all over it. So I'm showing you the large crab that we're going to be using for this decoration. Really, you could do this for any scarf, any that has an animal or a pattern on it that you like. The jute string from the Dollar Tree, Mod Podge. This one happens to be the gloss. That's what I have on hand. Sponge brush for the Mod Podge. Hot glue, because that's the in thing. And here's a bucket of shells that I've picked up over the years from visiting and living at the beach. And we'll use those towards the end of the project. I'm going to show you the crab on the plate so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, here we're lining the crab up with the plate and cutting off the remainder section, so we're working with a smaller section of the scarf. I'm lining the crab up on the plate in the direction that I want him to go. I put him a little off center, and then I started Mod Podging and realized I needed to Mod Podge the plate first. I have sped up this video so you don't have to watch me methodically Mod Podge. So again, we line up the crab, and I have to do him a little catty corner, cattywampus, so that all of his little legs mostly fit on the plate. And then we're going to Mod Podge over top of him as well. I start from the center and work my way out. That helps smooth down any wrinkles, and it helps push any extra fabric to the outside, which again helps reduce the wrinkles. And I do put a fair amount of Mod Podge on. This is a piece of cloth, so it does soak up some of the Mod Podge itself. So I wanted to make sure that there was a good coating of Mod Podge on there. You really want to get the edges as well, all like over the edge, go around the edge, as I'm doing here. I actually on this project needed to go a little bit better. There was a few spots I missed, but you'll see that later in the video. So here I'm trying to tuck it under to make it tight so that when I Mod Podge it will hopefully stick to the plate over the edges. Again, because we're wanting the fabric to cover the edges of the plate, but we don't need it to cover the whole back of the plate. So we just want to go enough that there's fabric glued or Mod Podged over and around the edge of the plate. Now for the next step, while the Mod Podge dries, which takes usually a good 24 hours, 12-24 hours, I'm taking that Dollar Tree jute string. I'm going to be braiding it so that we can edge the plate. As you see here, I'm measuring around the plate so that we can have the right length of string. I'm cutting 3 lengths of string because I'm going to be, as I said, braiding it. And so I'm measuring them out to be the same length. And I will then tie a knot at the end of the string so that it can be secure while I braid. And you want to make it nice and tight, but it's just a regular old knot. I was thinking of weighting it down with a plate, but then ultimately decided to use my phone to get started. Here I'm just untangling the strings so that we have 3 distinct separate strands so that you can get started with braiding. I tried to make it a little bit visual for those folks that might not be very good at braiding or might not have experience with braiding. But essentially you just keep taking the outside strand, right, left, over the center strand, making the center strand then your new outside strand. So outside becomes inside, outside becomes inside, and so on. I do eventually cut to the finished or almost finished string. I apologize. My sons are behind me playing. So continue braiding the strand all the way to the end. And again, it's just a regular braid where you make the outside string go over the inside string. And here I have to keep untangling the strings because eventually it gets to be a real mess if you don't and you can't braid. This ended up being a little messier than anticipated. I had to wipe strings off my red mat there. But coming up here you will see the almost finished strand, completely braided. Didn't want to make you watch the whole thing. So here we go, it's almost completely braided. Close up. You can see it's not completely straight. Doesn't have to be. It's because I'm braiding it in the air or whatever, not keeping it completely taut. I'm adding a few more braids so that you can see. And now I'm pulling down the plate so I can measure around the plate and tie off the braid so that we can then attach the braid to the plate. As you might notice, this is the plate before I Mod Podged on it, as I did some prep work and did the string before I Mod Podged the plate. So I backtracked just a little bit here. Also, that sticker, the sales sticker on the back of the plate, there's multiple ways you can remove those. I failed to remove this one, but you could use your heat gun if you have one. That will soften the glue and should help peel the sticker right off. Here I screwed up in tying my knot, so I'm just undoing it. I missed one of the strands. And then I'll retie it. Here, this is just to keep it from unraveling while we're working with it. It doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be small. Just get it a secure knot. Just making sure it's tight. And there's your finished braided, knotted string. That's oh so fascinating. So here is the plate, all dry. The next step is to cut off all the excess fabric that is on the edge. I start out with these scissors, flip it over, realize that these scissors are really a pain, so I switch to my fabric scissors that are really sharp, and I snip everything off. Again, I have this section sped up so that it's easy to see what I'm doing while also not having to watch the whole time. So I cut as much off as I can, and then I take this sponge sandpaper brush and I'm going to sand off the excess fabric, because you're going to want the rope to be able to cover anything that's over the edge, but you still want the fabric over the edge. So you're taking off the excess, which is hopefully glued down to the plate with the Mod Podge, without undoing the fabric over the edge, if that makes any sort of sense. I do a mostly good job here. There are a few spots that I miss that you'll see towards the end while I'm putting the rope on that I did not get short enough. This is quite a process. the better Mod Podging you do and the cutting of excess fabric off the edges, the less tedious this section will be. Here I was cutting off some more fabric that I could get to with the scissors before continuing to sand it down to get a smooth edge. I left this in despite the length and the time it took to do, so that you could see that it is a little bit of a process. It takes a little bit of time, but sanding it down gives you the best edge and finished product at the end, despite it being a little tedious or monotonous. I think those are the words I'm looking for. And so here I keep filing and filing and filing, sanding it down while my children laugh and play in the background. This is a voiceover, so yes, that is carpet behind me, but we are downstairs on the hardwood floor. Hence the hearing of the toys. And here I'm just cleaning up. I decided I'd scraped enough. So I'm trying to get now all the fabric fibers up so we can move on to edging the plate with the braided twine, cord, whatever you would like to call it. And I did end up using a sponge brush to help get all the little fibers off. As you can see on the edge of the screen, I also did a turtle plate previously for myself for our home. And I decided to record doing the crab plate for you guys. I also did find a scarf that had a red lobster on it at the Dollar Tree. So I plan on doing a third plate for myself as well. These plates, or well, they're cousins because these are staying for me. I made these for our home. Will be available on our Facebook shop. Here I cut the knot off of the end of one of the ends of the twine. You find where on the plate you want to put it, because you will be able to see the seam, but by cutting the knot off, it makes the seam much, much smaller and you can kind of hide it. And people have to really look for it to see the seam. So here I'm just using one of those silicone makeup applicator brushes from the Dollar Tree to help push it down so that my finger does not touch the glue. I'm showing you here that my glue gun happens to be low temperature and high temperature. So I've switched it to the low temperature setting. So there's less of a chance of me burning my fingers on the hot glue. The boys, I apologize, are behind me fighting over a rocking chair, even though there's two of them. They prefer the one, so they have fun vying for it back and forth. But yeah, so we just run a small bead of hot glue along the very edge of the plate. And then you lay the twine, the braided twine, down over top of that. You try to stay on the side edge and keep the twine, keep it on the edge and not on the top of the plate. And this is where the twine covers up the fabric over the edge, if done and cleaned up correctly. Here I stuck my finger in hot glue and I kept sticking it in the hot glue on occasion. So I was trying to clean it off my fingers. Having a precision tip on your hot glue gun might make this a little easier because you really don't need a whole lot of glue. And you see those few extra bubbles of hot glue on there that we really don't need. Here I skip to the end. You overlap the twine on the piece that you started with and then cut it as close as you can. You hot glue it down and cut it as close as you can. And then the glue is still hot, warm, so I was able to take the applicator and smooth it down and press it over. And at least on the video clip, you lose the seam. Like I said, you can tell it's there, but by doing it this way, without the knots, it makes it disappear. So here I'm showing you the finished twine on the plate around the edge. The next step is to add decoration. I add some shells. Again, I'm showing you my bucket of shells I've collected from visiting here in Virginia Beach, as well as living here in Virginia Beach. Though once we moved, and especially now with kids, there's less beach walking until they're able to actually walk the beach. But I had previously taken the time off camera to pick out 3 shells that I thought would add interest, as well as just a little something extra to make it a little bit more beachy or coastal themed. Once you get the arrangement and the shells that you like, we just, again, pull out that trusty hot glue gun and we hot glue them down in place. I used a big blob of hot glue, but make sure it's not so big that the shells don't cover it. And again, the last third and last shell. It's a little curly Q one that I'm always surprised to find, but I do find them. They are here. You can find them. You just have to look. These are mostly from my sunrise walks on the beach in the mornings. Here I'm cleaning up those dang hot glue strands that come from gluing. Up close shot so you can see the shells. I try to put it on the edge without really going over the edge. Again, another hot glue strand that I saw in the light once I picked it up to show you guys. You can see a shiny one there that I missed. And this is the way I'll display it with the shells in the upper corner. So I wanted to give you that view. Here I'm going to show you the turtle plate that I've done a while ago. As you can see, there's some more unique shells on there. And this turtle plate was my first go round, my first attempt. And here they are side by side. Your coastal decor plates. An easy DIY, or they will also be available on our shop at Facebook, Stable Hands PCS, or Stable Hands Pet Care and Services.